And welcome to Small Biz Aid Live. Our session today is entitled your Digital Customer in 2021, your new digital customer in 2021. I will introduce you to your session moderator in a moment, but please use our session's Q&A to ask any questions that you have throughout the session. I will review these questions and direct them to our moderator, but please be aware that our audience size might mean that your specific question will not be answered. But please join our alignable small business groups at the end of this session to continue the dialogue. Links to these groups will be provided in chat both now and at the end of the session, and are also posted on our agenda at smallbizaid.org, linked here in chat. So it's now my pleasure to introduce your session moderator, Eric Groves.
Hello and welcome everyone to this Small Biz Aid session on Knowing Thy Customer. Well, a lot has certainly changed over the past 15 months, and we're going to try and break it down for you. As Dave mentioned, I'm Eric Groves. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Alignable, and I'm thrilled to be joined today by three incredible experts in pretty much every facet of building customer relationships. Before we get started, let me ask you to find that chat box on your screen and invite you to post any questions you might have for our panel of experts there so we can pass them along to our guests. Well, now let me introduce them to you and have them share a sound bite about their backgrounds and their passion for small business. So first up, meet Raiva Lasansky, who I first met some 20 years ago when she was editor of Entrepreneur Magazine. Hello, Raiva.
Hi, Eric. It's so good to be with you. I try not to think about how long we've known each other. As Eric said, I started actually covering small business back in 1979. So I think I predate almost anybody. Since 2008, I have had my own company, Grow Biz Media, and we're content providers. We write about small business for our own site, smallbizdaily.com, and other sites as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And a little tidbit on Raiva is her dad actually ran a clothing store on Main Street when she was a kid. So that's where she got her first addiction to small business.
True.
Next up, let me introduce you to Melinda Emerson, who is known as the Small Biz Lady. I've known Melinda for many years as well, and she's an expert in helping business owners put their businesses on the right track. So Melinda, tell us a little bit about your background and your passion for small business.
Well, Eric, thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure to be on such an esteemed panel. I come to this with 22 years of business experience, and I have been training entrepreneurs for the last 13 years as the Small Biz Lady. In addition to my site, succeedasYourOwnBoss.com, this year through the pandemic, we launched Small Biz Lady University. So we have courses and materials to help people sort of like continue their digital pivot. If they're struggling, I got something for you. So I'm really excited to be here today to talk about how business has changed, how buyers have changed, and my mission is to end small business failure. So that's always what I'm about.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. And finally, rounding out our all-star panel is, I guess, my newfound friend who I met today, Shelly Kramer, who's CEO of V3B, and who's an expert in marketing strategies, both for business to consumer and business to business. So we're going to get a lot of great insights out of her. And she's also someone who loves to dive into data. So we're going to get into that a little bit too. But Shelly, introduce yourself.
Well, hello, new best friend. So I am a marketing brand strategist, and I started a marketing consulting agency about 25 years ago. I have worked with some of the world's largest brands. I have worked with small companies and lots in between. And there have been plenty of times when I have worked with in the B2C space and did that for a long time. And then I kind of transitioned to the B2B space, and it's interesting, in many instances, much more difficult. It's hard to I remember telling my team a number of years ago, we had a client who sold aluminum bleachers. So when you go to a ballpark or, watch your kids at a swim meet, or you sit on bleachers in the school where your kids go to school, my client sold that kind of equipment. And part of what we did for that client was writing copy. for him. And what I told my team is like it's easy to do sexy things like the newest makeup or sports equipment or whatever, but trying to write compelling content about aluminum bleachers, and when you can nail that, you can do anything. At least that's the gospel that I preach to my team. So I've done both of those things. I've straddled both of those worlds, and I am a data freak. And so I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Fantastic. And I'm going to apologize in advance because my next door neighbor in this world of COVID decided today was the perfect day to start a home renovation project. So I'm going to jump in and off of mute. So if there's a little delay, just bear with me a little bit. But first of all, thank you all for being here today. As you know, our mission here today is to provide insights that can help businesses drive towards full recovery and beyond. So no small task at hand. I guess, to start off, many of us are starting to feel like this massive, what do you call it? A global hurricane tornado of a wildfire earthquake has finally started to pass. But what we need to know now about consumer behavior is how has it changed over the past 15 months? And how should we be thinking about it as we look to recover? So let's start off with Raiva and go around the horn on this one. Raiva, from your perspective, how has consumer behavior changed over the past 15 months, and what should we make of it? How should we think about it as we're thinking about driving our business forward?
Well, I think the online adoption on the consumer behalf is there, right? Up until last year, we had a lot of consumers buying online, but online shopping was still a small percentage of overall retail shopping. And the NRF this year put out numbers in February, the National Retail Federation, as they normally do. And then last couple weeks ago, they put out new numbers. They revised their forecast, which had already been a positive one, to like a gigantically positive one, saying retail sales this year are going to increase between, I think it's 11% and 13.5%. But online sales of that are going to increase 18 to 23%. So I think consumers have embraced online shopping. I think they're going to go back to stores. We've seen some reports that stores are more crowded than they were, but that doesn't mean they're giving up their online behavior. So retailers have to not only welcome people back to their stores, but also maintain online selling and maintain the things that I think people completely embrace, which is curbside pickup or buy online pickup in store. It's convenient. That's not even a health issue at this point. That's just convenient. I don't want to get out of my car. Like, it's raining, it's too hot, it's too cold. Just bring it to me.
Absolutely. And Melinda, what did you see when you kind of look back and you're sort of counseling businesses about, the behavioral shift, and how does that how does it manifest itself to become this thing, the new normal? What do you think is going to stick around, and what do you think is going to change?
Well, I think the first thing that I know has changed is that social media has now become the number one sales channel. And you really have to know there's so many more. I mean, it's really I don't even know that we should call it social media anymore. I think we should call it social selling, because that is really what it has become. And people who don't understand how to do that are going to continue to struggle. And I think what we saw is that some people that were already kind of positioned online were able to kind of move quickly, but there were other people that had barely a website. Certainly it wasn't mobile optimized. There were all these people. And now it's not just about, oh, do I have a website? Oh, do I have some content? You really do have to understand online ads and SEO and all this stuff. Like, it's become way more complicated, and there's so many more people doing it, and there's so much more competition for keywords and stuff now. So you really have to understand not just content, but search intent. You have to make sure that your content is actually answering the question that people put into the search bar. And I think that that's a higher standard than what we saw before. So I think that the other thing I'll say too is that I saw a statistic recently that said by 2040, 95% of all purchases will take place online. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. I don't think people are going back to getting their toilet paper and paper towel in the store. I think they will click and buy all day long. And so I think that because that has now become habitual, like even my mom can use Instagram, you know what I mean, not Instagram, excuse me, Instacart to buy groceries. I mean, my mother's in her 70s. I never would have believed in my life. This is the same woman that wouldn't use online banking, is now using Instacart to order food. So I'm telling you that because it has become a multi-generational shift to digital buying, I think that's something that small business owners in particular really have to pay attention to. And it really is becoming about niches and focusing on specific platforms. I don't think people need to be out here doing 5 and 6 platforms. You need to do 1, maybe 2, and you need to do those well. And that is how things, I believe, have really shifted with this, sort of like pandemic economy.
Fantastic insights. And Shelley, we didn't talk about this in advance, but I'd love for you to, share your perspectives, but also then touch on the B2B side a little bit in terms of, what's really changed for them. But then hit both sides, the B2C and B2B. But the fact that you bring that perspective to the equation, I think would be awesome to hear about.
Well, I think I have a couple of points on each side of this equation. One, from a consumer standpoint, you don't know what you know until you know. Okay, that's like a dad-ism. And what I mean is we didn't know how flipping convenient, a lot of people didn't know, I've known for a very long time, how flipping convenient it was to order your groceries online or to order food from a restaurant and have it delivered by Postmates. I mean, there are a whole bunch of people who weren't paying attention, right? Here's another example. Self-checkout at a grocery store. It's so easy, right? But many times people don't do those things because they just don't know how, or they don't know whatever. And so I think that what a global pandemic and navigating that taught consumers was how to do it yourself. Here's another example, Apple Pay. I don't want to touch anything. I want to go like this and use my device, and I want to pay. And I find myself and I've taught so many people, including my 83-year-old mother-in-law, how to use Apple Pay so that she doesn't have to get her card out. She doesn't have to do anything. And it's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. So you don't know what you know until you know, right? From a business standpoint, what we've seen across the board, B2B, B2C, is digital transformation on steroids. As Melinda said, if you were a laggard, if you were one of those companies, and it doesn't matter, B2B, B2C, who didn't think a web presence was all that important, who didn't think that, give it any attention at all to having any kind of a social presence, who weren't making it easy for consumers, because by the way, we consumers have been shopping online for a very long time. And, many of us prefer to shop online, and Amazon has trained us to, be able to go and find whatever we want and click a button and go on to something else. Busy people love being able to shop online, and everybody I know is a busy person. So my point about digital transformation on steroids is that a lot of companies had an aha moment, or an oh crap moment. I didn't do any of this stuff. I don't have a great website. I don't have a mobile optimized website. I'm not doing any of these things. But when you listen to Melinda talk about SEO and content, and it's like all of a sudden you start thinking, oh my gosh, this is so much. I can't possibly do it, right? It's very easy to get overwhelmed. What I will say is that my experience in working, even in the B2B space, is that people have been very backwards in terms of customer data. Okay, and I'll say to my aluminum bleacher guy, I remember saying to him in the early days of our engagement, okay, so Joe Smith buys these bleachers from you. What is your relationship like after the sale? Do you have his email address? Well, yeah, we have his email address because we sent him, his invoice or whatever. Do you market to him? Do you do regular email communications with him? Does he know that you also sell diving platforms for the pool that he manages that you bought the bleachers from? Does he know that you also sell basketball goals and things like that? Well, no. Once we sell them something, we're done with them. And so what I find is that you can get really bogged down when you think about this huge amount of work that you might need to do from a content or SEO standpoint and everything else. But if you just take a gigantic step back and say, how am I reaching my customers? How am I collecting data about my customers that allows me to stay connected to them on an ongoing basis so that they know, how I can serve them, what we sell, what we're doing with our business. It starts with collecting that little tiny bit of information about them, which is their email address. And then,
Yeah, that's a great point.
and then staying on top of it and reaching them directly, because you can engage in SEO practices, and I'm not at all recommending against that, but that can be an expensive and time consuming path that it's incredibly difficult to do yourself. You know what you've got right there when you sell something to a customer? You've got them in front of you, and you can ask them for their email address, and you can start talking with them on a regular basis. And I think it's sometimes those business basics that companies of all size aren't thinking about.
I think
Now
you're
I know why you were my
exactly
long
right.
lost friend, because after spending 10 years at Constant Contact, you're telling the email story, which is great. Yeah, and it was interesting. I'll jump over to you in just a sec. I was just writing an article about the importance of almost using this point in time to relaunch your business,
Yep.
right? It's almost like it's a brand new reopening opportunity, and you have to think that way. And think about if you were just opening your business for the very first time, what would you do? You'd grab every email address of everybody you knew. You would light up social media. You would over communicate leading up to a crescendo of, hey, we're back in business. And you would draw people, you would throw every incentive program you had back into the mix to try and get people back in. It's like you got to prime the pump and get it spinning, and you're going to have to over communicate and reach out to all of these audiences. But Melinda, go ahead. I'm sorry, I cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to really co-sign what Shelley was saying, because I think one of the things people think is that they got to go out and get all these new customers, and really not realizing that the most expensive sale you'll ever make is the first one. And so really looking at existing customer lists, old customers that you haven't talked to in 3 or 4 years, those are the best kind. You know what I mean? So I really want to say that that's one of the biggest issues that I see small business owners struggle with marketing, is they focus too much on new customers and not nurturing existing customers. And she's right. You got to have email. And I'm really excited about email, because that's really the follow-up system to all of the sales systems in your whole business is email. So,
Right.
Yeah, and let's do that personal plug for Alignable now. Don't forget your business network, right? You need to build out your business network, connect with everybody you know, and use platforms like Alignable to post the things that you're doing, because word of mouth referrals is the best source of new customers. And that means you need to have those mouths, and you got to feed them words of what you're doing. So build your network and start communicating with it now like you're starting your business today. All right, well, let's give these folks some ideas, right, of what really worked well and what maybe didn't kind of hit the wall over the last couple of months or 15 months. But, there were certainly some surprises in businesses that we thought were going to be significantly adversely affected by COVID. And yet some of them managed to migrate online and recast their business through an online vehicle. And I was wondering if each of you would maybe touch on a couple examples of businesses that maybe you supported or you saw through your work that really kind of surprised you, and how quickly they could adapt to being online 24/7. So, Raiva, were there any on your list that jump out?
Well, I think that the bigger, not specific, like, oh, this business did this, but I think going back to something Melinda said, it was about, I had always shopped on, I mean, for years I'd shopped online. I want this, I'm gonna just order it online. But it became my first choice, where before maybe shopping online was a second choice. And I think a lot of retailers looked at it like, one of the things that I noticed is the adoption of a lot of Amazon technique. So Target, for instance, right? There's a Target less than 2 miles from my house. I mean, there's lots of Targets within like 6 miles of my house, like 4. But there's one that's like literally right down the street. But I wasn't going to go in. I wasn't, I just didn't feel comfortable. So I would order and it was like, oh, okay, I have to spend a certain amount to get free shipping. And then all of a sudden Target says, hey, here's this subscription package. Give us $100 and then you can just order whatever you want, whenever you want. Sort of like that Amazon Prime thing. And it took me a long time to get there, but then I realized that's going to actually save me money. And I think looking at the subscription model, because I just saw some stats the other day that the number one thing that drives an online sale is still free shipping.
Free shipping.
It is.
Free shipping.
Yeah, definitely.
They will pay more money for a good, but they don't want to pay for shipping. And so it's about
Amazon did that to everyone. Amazon
Absolutely.
taught everybody that. Oh, if it's not free shipping, it's garbage. No, I completely agree.
And the thing is that what everybody has to realize is people can likely buy what you're selling somewhere else. So if you're not ordering free shipping or saying something like, okay, you can have free shipping if you spend $150. No, people are going to go find what you're selling somewhere else. So you have to offer customers products, and you have to figure out the free shipping part. So you need to figure that out in your margins. What are you going to charge for goods? What are you paying for goods? Do you need to change your supply chain so you can get things cheaper so you can afford to absorb free shipping? I live in a city that has very, very, very few small businesses, right? It's a new city and everything here is like a chain. It's kind of sad, but the only things that aren't chains are restaurants. And how do you get there? You go through DoorDash or Postmates or something else. So it's always people are looking for the convenient option. That's what consumers want. It's convenience. And that's not gonna change. The one thing that I caution people, especially retailers, is the downside of having customers shop online is you lose that impulse purchase, right? The stuff that you're putting by your registers that people might go, oh, look at that. That's really cute. I'm going to grab one. You're not getting that. So you might want to add that online, like take your website more like a store. So when people are checking out, all of a sudden you go, oh, look at this. Here's some cute add-ons you might want. So you can still get that spontaneous buy.
Awesome. Shelley, what do you think? Anything kind of capture your eye? Maybe something different from the retail side?
Well, I think that I am going to talk about the retail side, and I'll say that
Okay.
I live in a community where there are lots of small businesses, and I'm very grateful for that. And I think part of the challenge of being a small business is to never stop beating the drum of the importance of supporting your local businesses, okay? Your neighbors own local businesses, your friends own local businesses. And I think that I saw on my part and on the part of many of my friends, people really stepped up to try to help keep those local businesses alive. And one habit that I've gotten in the habit of is that, for instance, I'm a big reader. And so I'll discover a book somewhere that I want to read, and I'll go to Amazon and I'll look for, that might be my discovery engine. Okay, Amazon. I found this book I want to read. And then I'll go to the website of my local bookstore and I'll order it. And I'll probably pay more for it. I don't care. Because I want to keep them in business. And what a really cool thing, the bookstore that I buy from is close, but not like up the street. Okay. And so what they do in the early days of the pandemic, what they did was if you ordered a book, they'd call you when it was in and you could go pick it up by way of curbside pickup. And when the first time I placed an order and she called me to tell me my book was ready, it was, of course I forgot because I'm doing, like all of us, 1,000 things at once, and it's really low on my priority thing. And one day, a week after she'd called me to let me know that my book was in, I opened my front door and there's a little bag from the bookseller with my book in it. And sometimes it's as easy as saying, gosh, this customer lives over in Brookside. And Molly, who works for me, lives over in Brookside. Hey, Molly, can you drop this off on her front step? It's like those little tiny touches. So now I'm telling, 1,000 people listening to this broadcast about something that touched me. And you know what I'm saying? Like this was a huge customer service step that I did not expect. I certainly did not ask for it. It wasn't something that I don't think anybody went extremely out of their way to do for me. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to and by the way, I have another order over there I have to pick up. So I'm mentioning this as much as reminding myself. But my point is there are little tiny customer service touch points that you can do if you are a local business. When you're competing against Amazon and Target and Walmart, there are things that you can do from a human standpoint that they can't. And so I would challenge you to do those things because in the big scheme of things, I don't think they cost you as much as they earn you from a customer loyalty standpoint.
Well, that's a great point. And so often, we forget the fact that the reason that we go to the local kitchen store is because the owner went to culinary school and knows everything about how to, fix a recipe or do something unique. The bookstore, the staff always has that insight into books that you just can't get by, going on to Amazon. And that's what makes our small business community so powerful, right? And it creates the communities we want to live in and really understanding how the money flows, right? You spend $100 on Amazon and maybe $1 comes back to the community if the UPS driver happens to live there. Right? But you spend that same $100 at the local bookstore and they're hiring local employees, they're buying local supplies, they're paying rent, they're feeding your community and all the things that you love, whether it's the first responders or the bike paths. So great segue into One Main Street, which is a huge initiative we're pushing on to try and get people to realize how important Main Street is to their communities. So great points. Hi, Melinda. How about you? Was there anybody that surprised you? Maybe like, for me, it was my physical trainer who I actually started just, I used to go to and do workouts with. And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, let's do some Zoom workouts after he wasn't having any business for a while. And, I wanted to keep him in business, but also wanted to maintain my sanity. But was there anything from your standpoint that really touched your mind or heart?
Well, it's funny. You almost took my example because I was going to actually say my son's karate teacher all of a sudden, became like this Zoom instructor. And he was really great because, to Shelly's point, when he actually tested my son for a new belt over Zoom. And then he drove to our house and was outside and he had this banner, congratulations, JoJo. and he brought JoJo the actual belt and tied it on him like in the driveway. We kind of came back in the house. And so that was a small thing, but it meant so much to my son because he stayed in stores for 15 months. Like he never went to hybrid school. I wasn't into it. So he went to school all year at our kitchen table. So I really feel like that was something that really touched. But also too, I have many coaching clients that I worked with. And one company in particular, Laguna Candles, they're a candle maker in Laguna, California. And one of the things that they were big into private label candles and manufacturing candles for larger companies. And so they really didn't have a lot of focus on their individual customers. And what I talked about constantly with the owner of the company was about intention. Like if you want to have individual customers, you can, but you have to start talking to them. You have to start using Instagram. You have to start posting pictures. You have to start talking about what's your winter offer, what's your spring offer, like come up with some new stuff, create a box offer, like all of these different things. And now they have a robust individual customer base because they realized they had to because, their big customers weren't calling them and they had to figure out how to make up revenue. And they actually got so much new business that they have actually expanded into a new facility in the middle of the pandemic because that's how much business that they transitioned.
Wow, those are awesome stories. So we've got a question from our audience that I wanted to toss out to you guys and get your perspective on it. So the question is, my question for the panel is, as a freelance voiceover actor, What do you think is the best way to market a service that many people or businesses don't realize would help them develop and access a new audience to bring in the clientele and revenue that they're looking for? So, for these folks that are sort of, that got hit really hard by COVID, but I think this is a great question
It
of,
is.
how do you help position yourself as a pathway to new clients in this new economy? Anybody want to take that one first?
I can do that. I think that so my career has been in marketing and advertising for 30 years. All right. I know what a voiceover artist is. I would venture a guess that many people do not. What is a voiceover artist? What do they do? How could they help me? And my challenge to you is, how are you using social media channels? Because this is our discovery engine. This is our discovery engine. When go anywhere, walk through an airport, walk through a doctor's waiting room, go anywhere and open your eyes. And here's what we're doing. We're scrolling. We're looking. This is our discovery engine. Okay. So part of my challenge to you is start being creative about telling people what it is that you do. Do you have a TikTok presence? Think of the amazing fun TikToks you could do about this is what a voiceover artist does. Here are some of the customers and like funny, silly, quirky, showing your talent, your voice talent. You could use Instagram in the same way. You could use Facebook in the same way. And this is really where the people like our panelists here, right? Melinda, you and I have known each other for 1,000,000 years. And basically, and this is the first time I think I've ever even seen you face to face, but we've talked online.
You're my Twitter pal. That's what
I'm saying, like, we've known each other forever, and anything that you've ever done, I'm there to support you. Likewise, vice versa. What I'm saying is people like us who dove into the social realm a decade or more ago have such an advantage over people who have not yet figured that out, because we've built amazingly deep, strong networks. And so when we want to do something, when we want to say something, when we want to showcase something, we've got a network built. And there used to be a time for anybody listening, who's old enough to have had a Rolodex, and you could go to your Rolodex and figure out who you know. Today, the strength of our connection base, and it speaks to, of course, what you do at Alignable, Eric, but is our network. And if you don't have an online network, I'm not sure what you've got. Because what I tell people all the time is, my dad doesn't know what I do. My next door neighbor doesn't know what I do. And I can guarantee you that a whole lot of people that have no idea what a voiceover talent individual brings to the table. You have to tell them. And the only way I know that you can tell them is to show them.
That's an
I
awesome
completely
point.
agree.
And the question was from a gentleman named Maccabee Griffin. And the thing that came to my mind when I saw that question was, I think of all the old cool taglines for the brands that are out there. And then when you said, do a TikTok video, I mean, how cool would it be to take something like "Where's the beef" and do it in like 5 different expressive tones, record it as a TikTok video and put it out there and literally remind everybody of all of these old taglines that have, that we remember from our childhood, presented in 5 or 6 different ways, and how it can really convey a different story. But Melinda, I think you had something to add to that. Do you want to jump in?
No, I was just going to say that I completely agree. You have to educate and entertain your audience to get people's attention. If you don't have a specific target market, you got to create one. You got to, draw the people to you. And so the suggestions that were given are completely on point.
I think
Awesome.
one thing that people overlook is and this is outside of digital, it's cross promotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is one of the things that if you're in an alignable group, that you need to think about. It's not just about your store. It's not just how do I get people into my store. It's how do I get people onto Main Street? How do I get people onto my block? And if you join with your fellow small business owners there, and okay, it's summer now, right? It's let's host an event, or 4th of July is coming up, or what event can you have that you can bring people back and make them comfortable? Because that's one of the things that a lot of surveys have noticed, that people want to go shopping, but they're not all comfortable about it. And so you want to make them see, hey, it's fine. Everything's cool. You can come, you can share, and then cross promote within the stores. You know, it's always, you think about who of your neighboring small business owners cater to the same audience. So let's say you own a hair salon. Well, so your audience is women. So where else in that area are women shopping? Maybe there's a kids clothing store. So there's a natural, well, you're catering to the same customers. So maybe offer each other's customers discounts or other promotions to get people to get that feeling of, like you said, I grew up, my dad owned a store on a neighborhood block in Queens, right? So everybody in that neighborhood, this was pre-malls, came to that store, and he knew the hardware store down the street and the deli across the street, and everybody was always telling people, oh, go here, go there, and we need to get that spirit back.
That's a great point. You know, early on, we were talking to a guy that was a tennis coach. And we asked him, hey, what are your best sources for new leads? And he said, there's one. It's the nail salon. And we're like, all right, do tell. He's like, well, I have a lot of women who care about their appearance who come in to get their nails done at the nail salon. And they're there for, I don't know, what is it, 15 minutes or 20 minutes to get those nails to dry? And he's like,
Longer.
I put out this flyer. Longer? To show you what I know. He said, I put out this flyer that's one-sided so they don't have to flip it over. And it talks about, hey, did you play tennis in college? Do you want to connect with some other great ladies who do this? You know, come by anytime. We have open sessions. You can come play tennis round robin. And he's like, I get the moms to come play. If I get the moms, I get the kids. If I get the kids, I get the dads. And it was brilliant. And I was like, I never thought of just this beautiful sort of aligning of these businesses, hence the name Alignable, right? But that was, you know, it was really interesting. And then I noticed behind the nail salon was a car place that did car cleaning, a detailing shop. And so I went back to the guy and I'm like, have you ever thought of working with the nail salon in front so when people are getting their nails done, they could just drop off the car and get their car detailed while they're sitting there and do, you know, kill two birds with one stone? And his face just lit up. He's like, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. And literally it was right in front of his business. So you never know where those opportunities are going to sit. So thank you for that question. And keep them coming if you have others. So we have one, it says, this, Melinda, might be right up your alley, all of your alleys, but it says, I have an Instagram and Facebook account, and I really don't know how to optimize selling on these platforms. I don't have a website. I've looked into Shopify and Etsy, but haven't started either. Using what I have, how do I post what I have to sell? Do I rephotograph pieces daily and post them? I feel stuck. Well, this is something that we hear a lot. So, Melinda, do you want to tackle that one?
Sure. Well, I mean, so first of all, you've got to figure out who you're targeting, right? I can't tell you, you know, until you have a specific target customer, until you know where that target customer hangs out online, I'm not sure if you should be doing Facebook or Instagram. And I also am not clear what you sell, so it's a little bit tough for me. But here's what I'll always say. You definitely can sell directly through Instagram and Facebook. I mean, Facebook is the biggest portal there is to sell, so you certainly can sell that way. But you've got to know who you're targeting, because the beautiful thing about Facebook is that they really let you drill down exactly who you want to target. I also would say to you is that you might want to invest in getting someone to help you to buy ads so that you don't do it yourself and waste a bunch of money, because Facebook is happy to take your money if you don't know what you're doing. So you really want to think about getting someone to help you and thinking about how much monthly budget you have to spend on ads and how much monthly budget you have to pay the person that's going to help you. Because I will say this, because so many people are now buying ads, the like, spend $10 to test your ad thing doesn't really work anymore. You got to go a little bit higher. You might need $50 a day to test your ads to make sure they work. Now, in terms of your products, I would take beautiful pictures of, if you have products that are visually interesting, yes, you need to take pictures. And yes, I would be posting pictures. But I also, if you've got video converts more than any other type of content online, especially if you have product videos of people using your product or video testimonies or people talking about your products. All of that stuff is going to go so much further to help you. And even if you don't have a website, you can set up a landing page. You can use a service like Lead Pages, or even one of the email platforms like Aweber will help you set up a landing page as well, so that you can at least get something going. But I don't believe in just selling on social platforms. I believe you got to have a website, because your website is your number one sales tool. And whereas your first sale may happen in social media, your second sale is going to happen on your website. So you gotta build a website. So go back and check out those folks at Shopify and see what they can do to help you, because they've got some great website builders there. You can also look at Wix. It's a little bit more simpler than Shopify, or even BigCommerce. Any of those can help you with sort of like a drag and drop thing. You don't have to be a technical whiz to set up a website, especially if you've got great images. So that would be my advice for you.
That's a great one. And I got some more clarification. I wasn't holding out on you. I got some more clarification on the question. So this was actually an artist, which is fascinating, right?
Okay.
Because they're going to have a lot of different products that we can all kind of see and hear. I think one of the things when you said video that struck me was, I was actually looking to buy a piece of art, and I actually got to meet the artist, and he told me the story behind the art that he created. And it was like, he gave me goosebumps, right? And it was like, I could see the picture, but I couldn't feel what he was thinking when he actually created it. And your thought about using video along with a post to just do a really short captioning of, hey, this is my latest work. Here's why I did it. And here's, why I was inspired to do this. I hope you find it inspiring too. And that will increase the virality of that, because people are going to be more willing to share stuff like that than just a piece of art. So great insight. Shelley, Riva, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Well, the number one thing this person needs to do is what Melinda said. You have to have a website. You cannot function today. You can't be discovered. You cannot be discovered in, or even let's say I found you on social. Let's say I want to tell my friend, hey, where am I going to send my friend?
Exactly.
Well, go on Instagram and maybe you'll find the ad. You can't, you have to have a destination so people can refer you, or I can go back and buy another piece of art. And it's so cheap today to create an e-commerce website. And if that scares you, start with Etsy. You're an artist, you need to be on Etsy. Amazon did an amazing promotion. So Prime Day ended, right? It was Monday and Tuesday. But they did all weekend. They said, if you buy from a small business, we will give you $10 towards spending on Amazon during Prime Day. So I went on, because I'll look for any opportunity I can support small business, and I should have put them on. I bought these really cool earrings from a small business artisan on Amazon on Sunday, and not only did I get because it's Amazon, I got my earrings by Monday, but I also got $10 to spend on the new iPad I wanted to buy. So it's a win-win. You just have to give customers, the whole thing, what do they say, is delight and surprise your customers. And so you have to do that, but you have to have a website in order for you to function in today's world. You just have to.
Great point.
Let me
There's
just interject that
there's a lot of
this is your 10-minute warning. We have 10 minutes left in the broadcast.
we're going for hours, Dave. Don't worry. We hear you. And the other thing is really reaching out to other business owners for support is a great way, when you're struggling with things like this, to, I'm not sure if this individual is up on Alignable, but there's an Etsy group on Alignable There's an artist group on Alignable. There's a small business website support group in Alignable. There's all of these resources with literally thousands of business owners. They're willing to help. And, small business owners love to help each other be successful. And so with our 10-minute warning, but well, go ahead, Raeva.
I was just going to say, if you still think I can't do this, go find a SCORE mentor, score.org. Mentorship is free, and they will tell you how to do it. They will hold your hand through the building of the website. It SCORE's a wonderful resource that people who are starting or in business, if they want to expand, should use, because you really literally get someone who's going to help you do what it is that you need to do, and it will cost you no money.
Yeah, and talk to a couple artists, because I imagine there's probably some artists that that are doing really well doing this, and just say, hey, what site did you use and how long did it take? You may be surprised at how easy it is. So great points. All right, so I'm going to throw out the last question, y'all, and get you to ask on it. So let's assume you can't keep doing what you're doing and you are going to go start a business. And you were thinking about, I'm going to open up a locally owned business. And you had to pick one that you thought held a really interesting opportunity now that we're all coming out of this crazy last 15 months. So what business would you pick, and what would you name your business? Does anybody want to go first?
I mean, I think if I was starting a business now from scratch, I would do one of two things. Either I would open up a tutoring service, because I think there's so many kids that are going to be struggling, and not every kid did well on Zoom. I think there's a big skills gap with kids. So I think that tutoring, anything in the educational field, in person or online, I think is a great business to start. But I'm a big fan of franchises. I think that success leaves clues everywhere. So you can start a franchise business in your local community and serve your community that way. So you just got to find the right franchise that works for you. But I think that that's a good way to go as well.
So,
all right, so Melinda, what would you name that franchise educational business that's helping young people that are zoomed out?
Gosh, I mean, I'm scared to throw out a name because it probably exists, but maybe something like, Tutors on Call, or Tutors R Us, something like that. I think something short, something catchy. Prayerfully, I could get the URL. The issue is, could I get the URL, right?
There you go.
But yeah, that's what I would call it, I think.
All right, Raeva, what would you do? What would you do?
So my dream, it's not doable anymore because of like that old movie You've Got Mail. But I always wanted to start a kids bookstore and call it Aisles of Books. In not aisles but mean like each section would be a different island. So that was my theme. So you would maybe go to Hawaii and find these kind of books, or that kind of, I grew up on Long Island, which is a little different kind of island, but still, but that won't work today. But one of the trends that we're seeing, and that was noted when the National Retail Federation had their announcement, they had a panel. And one of the things that everybody agreed on was there's still an inclination for nesting, because there is going to be more people are still going to work at home, hybrid work environments. So people want to go out and buy things to make their home more comfortable, more conducive to working at home, more conducive to maybe, having their kids learn at home. So those kind of things are a good opportunity right now. I'm not sure what I would name it, because and I love decorating stuff, but that's a kind of opportunity that's out there, that if you're thinking about starting a business, look along those lines.
Awesome. Well, now to my new BFF, Shelley, what's on your list? The person I've seen that when I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, I was noting like you're a typical entrepreneur. You have at least 3 things going on at any given point in time.
I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've started businesses, I've built businesses, but also my career has actually been focused on helping people build their businesses. So when I saw your question, it was like, ugh, I would not open a local business in the next 6 months or the next 6 years. And if I were going to, I can promise you, I would not tell you what it was, and I would never share the name idea. So no, I mean, seriously, like I'm a strategist, so
Yeah.
I would keep those if I truly was going to do that. That said, for me personally, I mean, I'm involved in, as are my co-panelists. I mean, I'm doing my dream work. I get up every day and am so grateful and feel so blessed to be able to spend my life doing what I love with clients that I love. And, I'm not punching a time clock. I live a wonderful life, and I am never not grateful for that. That said, personally, if I were going to start a business, it would be around a passion project. Kind of like yours, Riva, and the bookstore idea. Mine would be I'm an obsessive, crazy gardener, and my landscaping around my home is the kind of landscaping where people in my neighborhood walk by and they're just like, oh my gosh, look at this, and will she never stop? And this just keeps getting better. And so I'm really, really good at it, and it's my creative outlet. And so if I were ever going to do something, if I were ever going to open a business, if I ever got tired of doing what I'm doing now, I would have a business where I would help people design their own landscape and spend all of their money picking out amazing plants and that sort of thing. And I probably wouldn't do the labor myself of planting for them, but that's something that, again, it's all around passion, and it's around a true need and desire that people have, some people have. And so that would probably be what I would do.
What a great way to sort of wrap this up. I mean, it is all about your passion, right? I mean, we all
Yeah.
do what we do because we have our passions. And, now I know as I'm walking around my garden, I'm like, is this a weed or is this a plant? Who I'm sending a picture to? Because, I had a landscape friend once who said, it's only a weed if you want it, if you don't like it. It's a
There
plant
you
if you
go.
like it. Well, on that note, to our audience, we thank you for your time. We hope we provide you some insight and some ideas that can help you relaunch your businesses and get through recovery and onto some great things. And to our panel, it was wonderful seeing your faces again and meeting new people. And as always, you bring such great insight to this audience, and appreciate you for taking the time and being here with us today. So thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, Dave, I guess I'm going to pass it back to you.
This is your voice of God speaking. And thank you, all of you, for providing an absolutely terrific session. And thank all of you for attending this session of Small Biz Aid Live. To continue the conversation, please join the Perfecting Customer Service group at Alignable at the link I just provided in chat. Links to each of these sessions, recorded sessions, will be provided on our event page within the agenda within the next 48 hours. Thank you again, and have a great day, everyone. If you want to stay for the next session, please stay here. You'll see a slide come up. You don't have to go anywhere. The next session will start promptly at 11 a.m. Central Time. Thanks very much, everyone.